in this edition of Insight. It's a multi-million-dollar project 5 decades in the making. It will change how healthcare is delivered in Central South Dakota. And it's all about to happen, but it needs you to get started. That's all tonight on Insight. Hey, thanks for watching. For over 5 decades now, Capital Area Counseling has called Pierre home, but it hasn't always had a home of its own here in Pierre. For about 50 years now, CACS has been co-located across many different facilities in many different places in the city. But that's all about to change. CACS is within $500,000 of a $5 million campaign to build a brand new campus right here in the capital city. Pfrimmer and Ted Parsons recently sat down with us to tell us about this exciting development.
Another interesting thing about John F. Kennedy is my understanding is that the last piece of legislation that he ever signed before he was assassinated dealt with the mental health of our country. They wanted to deinstitutionalize mental health in America and thought that community mental health centers was the answer, and has been, but the unfortunate part of that story is that they made the decision to discontinue the institutional aspect of treating mental health, but they never approved the funding for the mental health centers. And here we are 50 years later in communities all over the country, Pierre included, trying to figure out how to fill that gap that has been there since Kennedy was president.
You're within $500,000 of seeing Building Better Tomorrows actually break ground. Tell me a little bit about what it means to get to this point, to be within $500,000 of ready to go.
It's exciting and it's frightening at the same time, because this is so important to those of us that are involved in this project. We've come a long ways, and when this project began, a philanthropic study was done of the people living in Central South Dakota, and the question was, is there enough interest and are there enough dollars available that we could run a campaign to raise somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 million for a facility like this? And the answer came back yes, that there was. And the people of Pierre and of Central South Dakota should be very proud of themselves for what they've done over the course of the last 15 months. Those kinds of dollars and more have been raised in the community. What we could not foresee at that point in time was that after a decade of no philanthropic efforts, really major ones, that all at once we had 3 or 4 that were operating in the community at the same time. And so it created challenges. Again, the community should be very proud, because we have raised as a community of people in excess of $4 million. Not enough of that was available for Capital Area Counseling to allow us to go ahead and just build the building. And so we had to spend some time and reevaluate what our options might be. We've actually over the course of the last 6 months, looked at the possibility of other facilities, other places that we might do this in the community. Buildings that have become available that were not available when we started the process so many months ago. And we have come back to where we began, and that is that with some resources that we had available to us as an organization from the great stewardship of my predecessors on the board of directors and the leadership of Denny Pfrimmer, we had dollars available there. We have the monies that we have raised through our capital campaign, and we've spoken to our banker about helping us in utilizing some debt. All of those things combined bring us to a point where with that $500,000, we can put a shovel in the ground this summer And that's a very exciting thing for us.
So you literally plan to break ground in the spring construction season. You're just that little bit shy of making it all come together.
Yeah, but that little bit is a big number. You know, $500,000. Think about the capital campaigns that we've had over the years. That in itself would be considered one of the largest. And so I want people to understand, yes, we're close to getting there, but they also need to understand that we're $500,000 away. And I know that there is interest in Central South Dakota for this type of facility. We hear about it every day. But mental health and addiction it's not very sexy. It's not something that people tend to sit and discuss. But it's something that is impacting the lives of virtually everyone in our community. I'm sure that people have heard my voice on the radio sharing a frightening statistic, and that is that in the next 7 days in Pierre and Fort Pierre, 5 people are going to need the services of mental crisis response, mobile crisis response. And that is it has been a tremendously successful program. Capital Area Counseling has been happy to be a part of it. We are very grateful to the commissioners of both communities for stepping up and their willingness to fund it, and it's working. But on the flip side of that, it's frightening that 5 people in our community in the next 7 days are at a point in their life that they think that it's time to go, that they don't want to live any longer. So I can't tell you, Patrick, that this new facility is going to stop suicide. I can't tell you that the person who's considering it is going to see this new building and somehow it's going to make them feel that there's enough hope left that they're willing to walk in the door. But I truly believe that that is the case. I believe that it is time for us, once and for all, to treat mental health and addictions like we treat any other medical malady, with a professionalism and an openness and a commitment to helping people to get better. And for those people who are watching or listening that have never had to take a loved one to a mental health center for issues that they're having or that they themselves might be having. For those individuals who have never had to drive a loved one to an addiction treatment center, it may be hard for them to comprehend how important the need is. But I have experienced that. I know exactly how it feels to have a loved one who needs help and to pull up outside of a facility. And what that facility tells you outwardly is what you might expect to get when you walk inside those doors. And in our community, we've been blessed to have facilities and the people willing to work in them to provide these services. But our facilities don't speak to the healing possibilities that we have here. They are old, and they are mostly run down. And we, as the board of directors of Capital Area Counseling, believe in our hearts and our souls that this facility it's going to provide a place where people can feel good about going and asking for this type of help, rather than feeling the shame that is so often associated with mental health and addiction issues.
You pitch this all over Central South Dakota. This isn't just a Pierre issue. This is 13 counties. Capital Area Counseling has a tremendous reach throughout Central South Dakota, and I'm sure you heard a great many stories in your travels about need. You talk to a lot of people. What are people outside of Pierre and Fort Pierre telling you about need? What are some of the things what kind of impact did that make on you? What's the need for this service, not just to Pierre, but to all of Central South Dakota?
I can tell you I have not made a presentation to a single individual who, as a result of that that conversation hasn't shared with me something that has happened in their life that involves them or a loved one with mental health and or addiction issues. It's everywhere. There is no ethnic or religious or economic group who's immune to this stuff. Those people in the outlying areas to Pierre in the farm ranch community, they're more likely than those of us living in Pierre to need the services of capital area counseling. So it's everywhere. But those people are also very supportive and hope-filled that we'll get this done. When we began this effort, we spoke to people about gifts of $10,000, $50,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars, hoping that we would be able to, in a very short period of time, generate the funds necessary to get this building in the ground. I've spoken to the larger philanthropic efforts in the community and what that meant to us, that we weren't able to raise as many dollars. But nonetheless, in each of those communities that we've spoken to, there are people that have come forth and said, you have to get this done. So the support is out there. At this point in time, we're not asking, we recognize that not everyone can afford to write a check for $5,000 or $10,000 or $100,000. Whether your gift is $100 or $100,000, every dollar is going to help. And so we have set up a link on our webpage at cacsnet.org, and people can visit that site. There will be a pop-up that comes up immediately that says, donate here to our capital campaign. And we hope that everyone that hears us, everyone that sees us, takes a moment and thinks about how fortunate that they are that they haven't needed these services, or how blessed that they've been when they have received these services, and that they will click and give. Now, for those individuals who might be watching who have the capacity to give those larger gifts and maybe want to give them over a 3-year or more period of time, I would be happy to meet with anyone, anytime, anywhere. So I can be reached on my cell phone at 222-7504. And I would encourage anyone listening to reach out and to give.
There's a tremendous amount of pride with the staff of Capital Area Counseling. They have really taken pride in their work. They take pride in their workplace. They take pride in the services they deliver. But can we do better for them?
Well, we can, and one of the ways that we can do a better job is providing quality supervision. That's pretty difficult to do right at the moment. We do a pretty good job of it, but that would be much easier if we had all of our clinical staff under one roof. For example, it's not only difficult for staff, it's difficult for our clients as well, but on the staff side, your supervisor might be in another building across town. And it's difficult to maintain the continuity that we need when we're working with people, sometimes in life or death situations. You want to have good access to your colleagues and to your supervisor as well. So that will really make a difference in the quality and the quantity of the supervision that we can provide our staff. For clients, getting our services co-located under one roof will make a huge difference as well, because depending on the reasons that you came to Capital Area Counseling, the services that you need might be in 2, if not 3 different buildings in different parts of town, not 2 or 3 buildings that sit side by side. These are buildings that are on the east side of town and downtown and on the south side. So it's confusing at best for for clients to receive the services. And we want to remove every barrier to receiving services that we can, and making it simple. We're in one location, this is where we are, and when they pull up, it's a building that conveys the sense of wellness and passion that certainly that our staff has about the work that they do, but also that the building itself is a place of healing. That when you're sitting in the waiting room, or in our case in the new building, when you're sitting quietly in the meditation room, which will be off of the waiting room, those are times of healing as well. So rather than a loud, noisy place where people are coming and going, we want our clients to come in and be able to rest and relax and clear their mind before they start the service that they came in for.
Let's talk a little bit about politically right now. The state is in session, the legislature is in session, and we're having a great deal of discussion about the coming addiction crisis. It's probably the largest discussion that I've witnessed at the Capitol in 30 years. And they are using the word crisis. How important is it that we have, for the future of our community, how important is it that we have a quality mental health facility capable of treating not just what we're discussing today, but the concern about mental health is only growing. It's not diminishing. They're using words like crisis to describe the next 3 to 5 years.
And that's only one crisis. We already are in the midst of a suicide crisis nationally, which I think is at epidemic proportions, and is something certainly that the CDC is watching carefully. I think it's a public health crisis, the number of people that we're losing to suicide in this country each year. And we should be particularly concerned about that in South Dakota, because the research indicates that farmers and ranchers die by suicide 6 times more often than the general population. So when you take that statistic and then overlay it with the difficulties in the ag economy these days, we really should be concerned about our family and friends that are in the ag business and people that live down the road from us. So it's very important that we be ready to help whoever comes in to capillary counseling with whatever issue they come with. And that is difficult because we're a generalized practice. We don't have many specialties within our staff. We have to be ready to help whoever comes and whatever they're struggling with at the time. So what that means is we really need high quality staff. It's not too hard to, when you think about it, of course, that's what you need. When you have people coming to you and you don't know what the next person's going to be coming in with, you need staff that are ready for whatever that is. And that's just not anybody. This is a special breed of people that we're looking for, and certainly that we already have at capillary counseling. And the reason that I'm making this point is that recruitment is very difficult in central South Dakota, probably all over South Dakota. I just heard the mayor of Sioux Falls talking about their unemployment rate, and that there are people looking for help all over Sioux Falls. We have that same problem in Pierre, but probably more so. It's also particularly difficult when you're looking for specialized employees, people with certain credentials, for example. So healthcare all over central South Dakota has been struggling for a long time to recruit the number of qualified staff that we need to meet the healthcare needs of the people who live here. And that's all kinds of healthcare. That's all kinds of physical medical care, and as well as mental health and addiction care as well. And nursing home care. Preschool. We need care for many, many different groups of people in central South Dakota, and recruiting qualified, competent, passionate people is difficult. And we think that not only will this new treatment facility, be good for the care of our clients, but it also will help with, as I said, the coordination of consultations and supervision, and thirdly, about recruiting the right people that we're going to need to keep up with the demand that's happening. You mentioned that the need's not going away. It's not. It's issues with mental illness and addictions are in the national news almost daily. We have lots and lots of people right here that are struggling. Since in the 3 years since 2015, January of 2015, we've done 604 emergency assessments for people who were in crisis. That's a lot. I think that would surprise people watching the program, that there are that many people living in and around Pierre that would have been in life-threatening, for the most part, life-threatening crises in our little communities between Pierre and Fort Pierre. So there is a lot of need. The good news is of those 604 people, we're not aware of any suicides immediately following those crises. So we have really talented, passionate staff that know what to do and when to do it. And I guess the unfortunate piece of that is that we've had to get good because there's such a need for it. We used to do our work and then on call was something that we did after hours and on weekends. It really isn't that way anymore. I was on call for 24 hours yesterday. I did 3 emergency assessments yesterday. We call them risk assessments. That's 24 hours. I had 3 people that were in emotional crisis. That doesn't happen every day, but on average, we're doing probably 5 or a little bit more than 5 evaluations a week. So that's in addition to all the other things that we do at capillary counseling, which people need us to continue doing. Therapeutic foster care, for example, services to youth and families, our adult psychiatric rehabilitation services that we provide, psychiatry, nursing, addictions. Of course, we own and operate the Boys and Girls Club too. So we've got a lot of irons in the fire, but we respond to those emergencies first. And that's not the way it used to be. It used to, first of all, there wasn't as many emergencies back in those days for whatever those reasons might be. But these days, people are calling when help is needed, and we're being able to deliver it to them in the course of those crises and within minutes.
I'm going to shift gears on you a little bit to talk about the floor plan. The last time you and I visited, we hadn't seen the actual floor plan so much, the artist rendering. We had an exterior view of the building. But as I looked at this and getting ready for today's interview, looked at the floor plans on the website, it struck me kind of like a campus feel. Ted talked a little bit about the image that the facility projects. If you're the person pulling up, what that means to you. Let's talk a little bit about what it means for staff working in an environment like that. As I said, it gave me kind of a campus feel. Not so much an office, not so much a clinic, but it felt very much like a campus where there's some collaboration going on and there's a good flow. And tell me a little bit about what this new building means versus, say, remodeling or retooling a building that wasn't purpose-built.
Well, by building new, we can build it exactly the way that we think it's going to work best. And workflow is really important, as it is in many offices, but in our services it is as well, because we have many staff dealing with many folks each day, and some of those folks that came in yesterday and that will come in today are in crisis themselves. Something has changed in their life. Folks that come to us have very complicated lives. We are not the first stop in town, unfortunately. Typically, people come to us in their own mind as a last resort. Some of that has to do with the stigma that still exists out there about seeking mental health services. I have to say, though, in the years that I've been around, that is changing, especially with younger people, let's say people under 30 years of age. They're much more willing to call and schedule some counseling sessions than some of us in my generation. So that's the good news, I guess. The facility houses a lot of people. It's one building. It's 2 floors, one building, but there's going to be maybe 70 people in there, and they're all needing to collaborate with each other in one way or another, whether it's regarding our electronic health records, our computer system, or our reception, or all the other non-clinical functions that we have as well. So we had to design the space in a way that would really be efficient. And we've worked real hard to think that through, and we think we've accomplished that. That isn't as easy to do if you go into a building that exists and you're trying to retrofit it.
How can people give and where can they give?
Well, the campaign to this point has been quiet, behind the scenes, talking with people that might have the capacity and the interest and the passion to give large contributions. But the remaining part of the campaign, the final phase that we're moving into, is the part of the campaign that we're really wanting everyone in the community to have the opportunity to be a part of. And we certainly want to include everybody that wants to give any amount of money. If you want to give 100 or 100,000, we need that level of support. And frankly, if 100's way out of the question and 5 or 10 is what you can afford, we'll take that too, because this really is a building meant for the community. This isn't like a for-profit business. We're not here for our own purposes. We exist as a public trust to support whatever the community's mental health and addiction needs are. And as we've grown, we've tried to address some other human needs in Pierre and Fort Pierre as well. But we see this as not just our building, but the building for the public. Anybody that needs to come to us should feel welcome. And of course, if they want to be a part of the excitement of getting this thing off the ground, send us $5 if that's all you can afford, because we appreciate the effort. It's not necessarily always about the amount of money that people could give, but there's also an element of engaging the entire community in this campaign. And we'd like to encourage anybody who has a few extra bucks to either go to our website, cacsnet.org. There'll be a pop-up immediately where you go there, and it will be very easy for you to figure out how to give. Your money will go directly to the South Dakota Community Foundation, not to Capillary Counseling, because they are the entity that's gathering all the funds for us. And anything that you give, 100% of it will go to the building of this project. And we still have naming rights available for those people that would like to give a little more. If you'd like to have your mom's name on something or your name on something, we can make that happen for you.
Tell me a little bit about what it means to you personally when that shovel goes in and turns the first spade of dirt.
Well, I've been at Capillary Counseling a long time, and people that have had the occasion to come into Capillary Counseling over the past 25 years, you don't have to explain to them what we were up against. Our finances were never such that we could afford to have the kind of space that our clients and our staff deserved. Now we're close to making that a reality. So we've thought of, we've dreamed about this for a long time. I first came to Capillary Counseling in 1989. That's a long time ago, and I've spent most of my adult life, it seems like, in the buildings at Capillary Counseling. So it's going to be a special occasion for all of us. There's a few of us have been around a long time. Loretta Yoakum, our Chief Financial Officer, has been around over 30 years, and I've been there 25 or better, and Barb Johnson is with us, so she's probably over 30 years at this point as well. So those of us that have been with the agency through thick and thin, it's going to be special.
The staff and the clients of Capillary Counseling aren't just nameless people. These are our family and friends. They truly deserve this campus. If you have $1 or $2 to give, maybe a little bit more, maybe you've given in the past and think you can do a little bit again this time, now's the time to do it. $500,000 by spring will build a facility yet this year. Hey, thanks for watching, and keep your emails coming. Justin and I are developing several shows right now, and we're always looking for new ideas, so drop us a line at OaheTV.com. Until next time, we'll see it again here on Insight.